We've had our discussion of biomes and the different habitats that exist on our planet, and today we're going to start our discussion about ecology. Ecology, you might know, when you see ology in a word, means study of. So a word like biology is the study of life. Ecology comes from the Greek word ek, meaning home. So it is the study of where we live or the place we live. And by we, I mean plants and animals. So ecology literally means the study of the places where we live. But what is ecology? Ecology is all about this interactions. Ecology is the study of the interactions between organisms and their environment. So, if ecology is the study of the interactions between organisms and their environment, how does it work? How do you practice ecology? How do you study it? Because it's a little bit hard to take an organism out of its environment and bring it back to the lab to study it. So, what are you going to do? Ecologists gather information. They're going to gather information about an organism. You may know, I hope that you know, that an organism is an individual. Meaning there's only one. So it's an individual living thing. It can be a plant, an animal, a bacteria, a single cell organism. It is just any living thing that is capable of growing, reproducing, responding to stimuli, comma here. So it's going to respond to its environment. And maintain homeostasis. So it's able to keep all of its systems in balance and be healthy. Homeo means same. Stasis means steady. So all systems balanced. So an ecologist is going to gather information about an organism and about the environment they live in. You may guess that the environment is a set of conditions that surround an organism. So this can be anything from the amount of food that's present to where it lives, to how much water is around, how much sunlight a creature gets. You're then going to look for patterns and try to explain them. You're going to use your senses to make observations about organisms and their environment. You're going to look for patterns and try to explain what those patterns mean. So we said the environment is the set of all conditions surrounding an organism. But what are those conditions? We talk about conditions can be biotic, or features of your environment are going to be biotic. This is all of the living things in an ecosystem. So all of the living organisms or things in an ecosystem. And some of you might know that an ecosystem, again, the word eco comes from the Greek place to live. So an ecosystem is everything that exists in an environment, or everything that exists where we live. The ecosystem is how all of those things work together. Biotic is all of the living things in an ecosystem. Abiotic is all of the non-living things. So all of the non-living things in an ecosystem. And this is truly things. Abiotic factors would be like sunlight or moonlight, the amount of water or rain or snow, it's going to be temperature, and wind. How rocky the ground is. So these are all things that are not alive in any way, shape, or form, but they still affect, or they still have an effect on things living in an environment. The other terminology that we need to cover today is a word that we use to describe organisms in their environment. And that is the word niche. A niche is the role an organism plays in its environment. What do I mean by that? Well, we know that a bee, its job is to pollinate flowers. Other insects pollinate flowers too. Their job is to take pollen from one flower to the next so that those flowers can reproduce. Without the bees, those flowers would not be able to send their pollen quite as easily from one flower to the next. There is a flower called a clover. The clover's job is to take nitrogen that is in the soil and change it to a form of nitrogen that is more easily used by other plants and animals. So clovers fix nitrogen and make it more readily available for other organisms to use it. The other day in class, when we were talking about biomes, we talked about the beaver. And how when they make a dam on a stream, that they are then going to turn a forest into a lake as the trees die off and then the beaver leaves. That forest becomes a meadow. So they're going to turn forests into fields. Here we have very different organisms in very different roles. But that's not always the case. Sometimes we can have very similar organisms Here is an example of three niches and one habitat. We have lions, which I hope you know. We have our lions, who are big cats in the grasslands of the Serengeti, that's in Africa. We have cheetahs. And finally, we have leopards. These are three big cats that all live in the same habitat, but they each play a different role in that habitat. So they are all able to live together in one place. Lions hunt big game. They hunt in packs, and they ambush their prey. So big game are going to be like the big water buffalo and the big giraffes, really big creatures, and they work together as a team, and they hide in the grass and they hunt down their prey. Cheetahs, which you all know are really fast animals, cheetahs hunt smaller prey. So now they're running after gazelles and smaller zebras. And they hunt by just tiring out their prey. So they're going to run them down. And finally, we have our leopards. Leopards hang out in wooded areas. So they hunt in the areas on the Serengeti where there are some trees. And leopards are going to jump down from the trees or pounce onto their prey. So here we have three separate niches, but one habitat. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about, I'll zoom out so you can see that. Now I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about how all of these interactions are organized. We're going to talk about the levels of organization. I'm running out of room. All right, let's see if I can move the screen over. There we go. So we're going to talk about the levels of organization in an ecosystem. You may remember when we were talking about the universe. We said the universe contains everything, and inside that universe there were galaxies, and inside those galaxies there were solar systems. Inside those solar systems there were planets. So now we are talking about within a planet, do it as a half circle on the board. You can draw it as a whole circle if you want. But within our planet, there are biospheres. And the biosphere is the part of the Earth or planet where there is life. Within the biosphere, so the biosphere is everywhere on a planet where there is life. Within that biosphere, we have our biomes. We said biomes are large, naturally occurring communities. Occupying a habitat. Within our biomes, we are going to have an ecosystem. We said an ecosystem is everything that exists in an environment. Abiotic and biotic. Within that ecosystem, we're going to have a community. Now that I've moved away, I'll draw a circle. A community is going to be two or more living groups. A population is within that group. Is within that community. We have populations. And a population consists of a group of all the same species. And within those populations, we are going to have our individual organisms. This is our single living organism. So here are our levels of organization within ecology. And so I'm going to give you an example of what this is going to look like. I'm providing a handout that is going to tell you, it's going to use gophers as the example, so you are welcome to go ahead and use that in your notebook, or you are welcome to use this example that I am about to give you right now. There are our levels of organization. All right. Each and every one of you is a single living organism. And your population is, we have two populations. We have 7th graders and 8th graders. Depending on which class you're in, that is your population. These are all the same species. You are all 7th or 8th graders. Your community would be the HVM middle school. And it consists of 7th and 8th graders. The ecosystem that you inhabit would be the HVM middle school. So that would be our classrooms and the great room and the gym and the art room. Your biome could be considered to be HVM altogether. So this is the whole entire school. And our biosphere, if you want to extend it outward, could be the entire city of Haverhill, or the true biosphere of our planet Earth. So, as I said, you guys are welcome to use either example. Know that galaxies, solar systems, and planets. Know that when we talk in the future, when we start talking about cells, there will be levels of organization within the individual. By the end of the school year, you will be able to show the levels of organization from a cell, from an atom, all the way up to a universe. So know that we are getting more and more simplified. The bigger the circle, the more complex the system is.